Okay, so here's where we left off. We've got our front page. None of this is styled. You can style that on your own. Um, None of the other views are styled. The edit pages aren't styled. So all of this stuff needs to be styled still. But the last thing I want to do is I want to add a header, a nav bar, and then a static page. So the first thing we'll do is we'll add a static page. And to add a static page, there's really several ways to do this, but the easiest way to do this is to create what's called a pages controller. So what we'll do is we'll do a Rails G controller pages, and we'll create the pages controller. And in our pages controller, that should have created a file in our pages controller. We're going to define our pages. So I'm going to create an about page. Whatever static pages you want to create, you would put them here. So you could do privacy if you had a page for privacy, for example. But you would want to define your pages in this controller. And at this point, we're not going to do anything else except for just define them and say that they exist. So now that we've defined these pages, what we're going to do is we're going to create a view for them. So part of what the generation of the controller did is it created a placeholder for pages in our views. So right-click on that folder and click New File. And then I'm just going to put About Page placeholder at the top. And I'm going to save it as about.html.erb. Okay, so that exists. Now if we go to pages/about, nothing's going to happen because we have a routing error. So we actually haven't looked at our router yet for this app. What we'll do is we'll go down to config, and we'll go down to routes. And so we don't really have, we actually don't have any route set up. So one thing we can do is we can go into our command line and we can do a command called rake routes. And this will tell us kind of the URLs that our different routes are at. So right now, what we want to do when we just go to the index page is we want to pull up all recipes, and that's not happening. So one thing we can do is we can set our root page to recipes index. So now, when we go to our home page, it sets our recipes index page as our home page. So that's good. But that still doesn't get our pages. So one command we will need to know is the get pages/about. So this get command just tells us, hey, we need to create a route for pages/about. So now that we've done that, we can go to pages/about, and it should exist. Yep, so our about pages placeholder exists now. And now when we go to rake routes again, we'll be able to see those routes created for pages right there, pages/about. Okay, so now that we've basically created a URL for our static page, let's go into our, back into our app folder, our views and our application, layouts and application, and let's add a header. So we want to add a nav bar, and we're just going to use Bootstrap. So if we go to getbootstrap.com and we go to, nope, I'm just going to Google Bootstrap Navbar. And I'm going to, basically I'm going to grab this nav bar. So about halfway down, it's just called nav. I'm just going to copy it, and right above my body, I'm just going to paste all of it in there. So if we refresh our page, we now have a nav bar. It's really ugly, and it doesn't really quite work. and nothing's linked properly, but we have a navbar. So if we go back to our home page, the navbar still stays there. So what we want to do is, I'm going to change this navbar to a Ruby tag instead of HTML. So we're going to remove this, and we're just going to go link to, and then we're going to go recipe app, whatever you want to call your app. And we're going to go look at our routes, and we want to link back to our root. So if we look at our routes and we find root, I think we can just specify root path for our link. So if we refresh, that should bring us back home, and it does. So let's add our class back on there. So the class was navbar brand. Okay, so our navbar brand. Let's see. So instead of all of these LIs, we don't really have any pages to link to other than our about page. So I'm going to delete all of those list tags, and I'm just going to add an LI, and I'm going to link to my about page. And again, we're going to look for our root. Our root is pages underscore about, or I'm sorry, our path is pages underscore about. So we're going to go back in. We'll go pages about underscore path. You always have to add path to the URL when you're doing a link to, and so that should send us to our about page. Yep. And now we can go back and forth. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, that's our. Yeah, I don't really like that. So that's our button. I'm going to delete this button. Sorry, guys. That's gone. And I'm going to actually make this, if I do navbar right, let's push that to the right. Yeah. Okay. So it's still quite ugly, but it is a header nonetheless. And so that's how you would add a header. You could do the same thing for the footer. You would just do it after your, you just do it after the yield here. You could add your footer information. But I just wanted to show you guys how to add the footer and the header. Okay, so that's it. That's the entire app. It's fully functional. It's super ugly, but that gives you lots of room to improve the design. And everything is working. So you're done for now, and then you can just continue on styling. See you next time.